Hey, Paul,
Yeah.
have you ever watched movies that just really let you down?
Yes.
Well, we're going to get to talk about them tonight on Real to Real Talk.
Yep.
Welcome, everybody, to this episode of Real to Real Talk. I am Sergio Barrera, and it is time once again, along with my good friend Paul Britton, to talk about all things movies. Paul, welcome to another episode of Real to Real Talk.
Hi, Sergio. How you doing?
I am doing good. I am excited about this week's topic because it could go anywhere.
It could.
Yeah.
And mostly because of the big movie we're reviewing, Uncharted.
Right. It was hard to post about it and not think that people were going to put the two together and go,
Yeah. It's not necessarily going to go anywhere good. Let's just put it that way.
Yeah, because our topic tonight is going to be a nice little segue into our discussion of the movie we're going to review this week, which is Uncharted. The title of tonight's episode, let me just put it up on screen here for just a moment. It's simply, movies that let us down. And so, but speaking of people that let us down, I'm kidding. No. So welcome to the show. No. We have a very special guest tonight because back with us.
How dare you?
I can't believe it.
Wow.
I'm kidding.
That's so horrible.
Oh no, she knows I'm teasing. Now, joining us tonight on this very, very special evening is a very special friend of the show, part of the show, always a part of the show. We are welcoming back Susan Chisholm for a bit of a conversation around this topic. So, Susan, welcome. How have you been?
No, it's been great. Just doing nursing school junk.
How is that going?
It's going well. I'm getting close to the end. The light at the end of the tunnel is really bright.
Yay.
I'm just not sure if it's a train yet.
I believe it's October, right?
October 9th. Yes, that is my graduation date.
Well, wow. It's going to be
wowie, wow. Wowie, Rick Wowerson.
Well, I'm excited that you are joining us tonight. And this sort of began, Susan, because of the movie we're going to review tonight. So, it's going to be interesting. So, this movie was probably an indirect inspiration, Paul, for tonight's topic. And here, before we get started, can I just share?
Spoiler alert.
Yeah, exactly. What I found interesting as I prepped for tonight was list upon list, because I struggled with okay, what movies really let me down? There are a few, but list upon list that I looked at out of curiosity, I found it amazing how many movies are on these lists that, articles that are written and such, that I go, but I really like those. So that's yeah, I don't know, Paul, if is there a definition that we want to go by that defines this whole notion of let us down?
Literally a movie you were excited for, and then you went and saw in the theater and you were just like, ugh.
It was like, wah, wah, wah.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
And I want to say it's harder to be not surprising. It's harder to be surprised by movies. Pre Rotten Tomato days, you had one, maybe two, at most 3 reviews to go off of before you went and saw a movie. Sure. You kind of knew what professionals thought about it, but that didn't necessarily correlate with anything. Whereas now, if I look at Rotten Tomatoes and it's under 50%, that tells me something. That actually, and I know there are people that hate Rotten Tomatoes, but honestly, that's fair, And if I see same thing where if I see it have 80 or 85% from the critics, but only 50% or 60% from the fans, again, I know what I'm in for. I'm in it for something that's going to be a little boring to most people, but I'll probably like. It's just like,
Mhm.
but so it's hard for me to be like, I when I sat down and thought about it, I couldn't think of anything in the past like 15 years. Just because I knew going in, all right, this is not going to be good. Like,
Oh,
it's
okay,
just,
got it. But
so
now,
go ahead.
go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, so I was gonna say, so I'm literally thinking of I show up at the theater, I'm disappointed less, I'm excited about a movie 6 months out, and then 1 month out, you start hearing the buzz about it, and then the reviews come out, and you look at Rotten Tomatoes, and it's at 40%. You're like, oh well, I guess I'm not gonna like it because I'm talking about, like, literally you're in the theater and you're like so excited about it, you're like, I'm gonna like this movie, and then you don't like it. It's like, oh
Yeah. Susan, what about you? I mean, in terms of, before we get into a deeper dive of like, what are some of the examples, as someone who isn't the prolific movie watcher that some of us are, do have you been in a position where you're like, yeah, this one's going to be great, and then you're like,
Absolutely. Because I intentionally don't read reviews and ratings and stuff like that before I go into it, because I want to go into it with a clear mind, a clear head, to make my own opinion of it. Because I'm backwards like that, I guess. I mean, I get that, and there are some people that I know, friends of mine that read the reviews and then they act like that's all they need to know. Like, they don't even watch the movie. It's like, oh man, it was a huge letdown. It was terrible. It was the worst movie ever. I'm like, did you watch it though? And they're like, yeah, no, I didn't need to. I read the reviews. And it's like, that's not the same thing.
no, it's not.
I mean, even me, who has a struggle with getting to movies and watching movies, sometimes I see the value in watching the damn movie.
Yeah. Well, and the thing that for me is a measure of a letdown is, my scale is far smaller in terms of movies that can let me down, because I can watch a film, as you know, and we don't want to put up the 13th Warrior banner. I can watch a movie that later I'll find out was like universally panned, and I'm sitting there going, I don't get that. One of the movies, Paul, that I know you and I really, really love and was more than universally panned was Hudson Hawk.
Right. We had a whole episode about Hudson Hawk.
Yeah, and it was this movie that was so, was it highly anticipated to some degree? Sure, because Bruce Willis sort of in his prime.
Right.
But when it came out, it was just dogged completely by the critics. And I stand by this notion, there are just going to be some films that you can say whatever you want. I think they were great, and only because Nick Kramer is listening, I'm going to mention the Fantastic Four. So,
do you really wait? No, reboot or no?
Paul is ready. No, I love to tease Nick. I enjoyed it. I didn't think it was spectacular, but I didn't have I didn't realize what a horribly panned movie it was. Until I read about it later. Burn that fantastic. Here it is. That's what I was waiting for. And so, I have a threshold that I think most people would. I don't think I fall in line with a lot of people, because a lot of movies that let people down, I'm like, okay, I liked it.
You're
one of the movies
with liking bad movies,
right? Exactly. I mean, come on, Waterworld. So,
hey, I like Waterworld too.
Yeah. So by way of, if I may, by way of example, the last movie that let me down, that I watched the trailer and thought, oh, this is gonna be great, because of the cast, because of the what you thought the story was after the trailer, was The Card Counter. We spoke of it recently in the last few months. Why can't Oscar Isaac? And wow, talk about, it just wasn't. It let me down. That to me is a letdown. When
Sure.
it comes across as the kind of film that I'm gonna it's gonna be my wheelhouse, dialogue driven.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I mean, that for me is the bigger deal. I think the only movie that has ever really just been like, oh, what in the world, that I really had an emotional reaction to how horrible it was The Godfather Part 3,
Okay.
because that was
Sure.
such that franchise is so important to me personally in the course of my movie fandom. So, but I'd like to hear obviously from all of us. So, Paul, why don't we start with you and just sort of set us up with, we'll do kind of a round robin and just talk about a few movies that we felt let us down.
Sure. The first movie I wanted to walk out on.
Here we go. Yes.
The first movie I wanted to walk out on was a movie called Cool World.
Oh, yes. Oh, my God. That was horrible.
And look, you know me, I love animated movies.
Mhm.
And so like mixing live action and animation, yeah, let's do that. Brad Pitt, young Brad Pitt, sure, yeah, definitely, let's do it. And Kim Basinger doing the voice of the and just horrible. I was so excited for this movie, so excited. Me and my friend Jim went and saw it in a theater. I was working at a movie theater at the time, and the movie's over, and we both kind of look at each other, and like, I was like, I wanted to leave, and he's like, oh, I did too, and I didn't say anything because I just figured you'd want to stay to the end, and he's like, yeah, same thing. So it was like two people who really didn't want to be there anymore that stuck around just because we're so used to just sticking around,
Yeah.
And yeah, it was.
Oh man, I had managed to put that out of my mind.
Yeah,
I've
wanted to revisit it just because of how. Like I've never seen 5 seconds of footage from that movie ever after seeing it, but I kind of want to see it again just as like that's why this sucked so bad. But yeah, the Cool World is a very early movie that let me down for sure.
Gotcha. That's a really great start. Susan, we'll go to you next.
So I think, and I was looking kind of back at my list of movies, and I wasn't 100% sure how many to prepare, so I have a few. And I was looking kind of back at it, and I think the common theme in my list is movies, obviously that started as books that I've read and had made up in my mind this whole world, and then I watched the movie, and I was like, that is nothing like what I imagined it would be, and it was a complete and utter letdown because I was like, where's all the cool stuff that I imagined? And missed points like there's things that are in the book that were missed. So the first one that I am bringing up is Ender's Game, because I absolutely love Orson Scott Card as an author, and I loved that entire series. He has multiple series that I've read, and I love all of them. But in particular, the Ender's Game series was just phenomenal. And watching the movie, and I was like, hey, it's got Harrison Ford in it. It's going to be all right. It's going to be pretty cool. And it was very much not. Very not. Like there were so many missed points, and the way that they turned it around. Well, anyway, I don't know how to describe it with like they made a perspective that in my head was, this is the reasoning behind it. This person is this way. And it was more that this person is misled, and the movie made it this person is evil, which that's not how that goes.
Gotcha.
So,
well, yeah. And I will say that Ender's Game is one of the rare movies where I did leave the theater. And yeah.
Really interesting.
Yeah,
wow.
Very rare. Very rare.
So, yeah.
And that's one of the rare movies that I did. I also read the book before going to the movie, and I read the book and I was like, "There's no way you can make a book this rich into like you can't do everything. Like there's so much." And I haven't read the whole series. I just only read the first book. And I was just like, you can't, there's too much. Like this is a 3.5 hour movie. If you're going to be making it a movie, and you just, it's a 2 hour, like, no, it's not. And so I went in like just accepting that everything was going to just feel very different from the book. And I was like, okay, this is all right. I didn't loathe it, but yeah, it was definitely not as compelling as the book by any stretch of the imagination.
No, and honestly, like given my my reading kind of thing, I was expecting it to not be as good as what was made up in my mind, but I didn't expect it to be that bad. You know, it was one of those things where it was like, well, that was a thing.
Yeah.
I need ice cream now to make up for that.
I'll have some ice cream.
Ice cream sounds good.
Yeah.
Well, to continue the theme of books made into movies that didn't work and let us down, for myself, I in 2017, I don't know why I thought that The Dark Tower was going to be anything, you know, close to what the series of books that Stephen King wrote was, and the casting should have been my first clue, but I had to go into it. I had to see it because I'm like, okay, what are they going to do with this iconic, you know, multi-book series, and what are they going to try to do in a film? And it was just so bad. And I think that my list of movies that let me down, I go in not with this notion of like it's going to be awesome. It's like, oh, okay, how much will I be disappointed? And yeah, The Dark Tower shall never be seen by these eyes again. You know, and they leave it in a place where there's just no possible opportunity that they're going to do anything else with that particular project. It's too massive. You can't create a film or even a series. I think. I think about what was recently done with another Stephen King book, The Stand, for television. And while the TV version, the TV film version, was a 3-part miniseries way back in the early 90s, late 80s, early 90s, it was passable. Like I mean, this is my favorite, probably my favorite book of all time, The Stand. I should have known that, you know, you just can't revisit that kind of material and feel like it's going to be made. There are books that should stay books. Well, The Dark Tower was definitely one of them, and that's my first entry. So, Paul, we'll come back to you. What's another example?
So the first movie I actually did walk out on, I've mentioned this one before, but it's Mel Brooks' Men in Tights. Like, I was such a huge Mel Brooks fan. Like, you just have no, like, History of the World is still one of the funniest movies to me I've ever seen. And you know, it like obviously Blazing Saddles and Young Frankenstein and just, you know, Spaceballs, you know, even, you know, more recently from, you know, the time when, you know, Mel Brooks was, you know, and like I felt like the Kevin Costner Robin Hood movie was ripe for being made fun of. Like, there was a lot going on in that movie that was just laughable. And so I was ready. And I like sat there. I was like, oh my God, this just isn't funny at all. And so like I was with some other friends for like and it was the same time period as Cool World, because I was still working in the movie theater, and they're like, we're leaving. I was like, I'm coming with you. So
wow.
I missed Patrick Stewart coming out at the end, which I was led to believe would have been like something I would have enjoyed, but like I hated so much of the rest of the movie that like there was nothing I was going to enjoy from that movie.
Nice.
And comedies I think is a common one for this, because it's so hard to just be funny throughout a whole movie. You know, it's so hard.
Yeah.
So.
Well, and it's in the world. I think in comedy, mostly the world of sequels is what lets us down, because I can think of a ton of comedic sequels that I was just like, oh, that'll make my list here soon. But Susan,
Can I guess too? What I'll let you do it.
Well, yeah, I'll let you guess when it's my turn, but okay, because you'll probably be right. Susan, what about you?
So, my next one is the Da Vinci Code. Again, a book that I loved and was made into a movie that was horrible. Like from the casting decisions through the
haircuts.
Oh my God. Oh my God. Details that were important that were completely glossed over and missed. Like, how did we come from point A to point B? Yeah, that was awful. Like, I like Tom Hanks. I do. but I don't think that he was the right choice. But I guess
Yeah.
I'm alone in that. I don't know. Yeah.
There's another one that I actually did read before seeing the movie, and I like the craziest thing about it is that book reads like a friggin' movie. Like it's basically a screenplay. It's
Yeah.
like, here, this is how you make this into a movie, and it's like, wait, how did we miss this boat? Like, shouldn't this been a slam dunk?
Exactly. Because it was literally right in front of you in black and white on
Yep.
paper.
Yep.
Just take it and run with
Yep.
it. Just go. And they were
Yep.
like, how to run.
And this is what, like, I freaking love Ron Howard, and I'm not pinning this one on him. I'm blaming the screenplay on this one. Like, and I know normally
Yes.
I'm going to blame the director, but honestly, this one felt more like the screenplay. And
Dan Brown writes such short chapters in his books, and you would think it'd be a lot easier to produce something. I'm not going to say that I hated that film, but it was one of those where I was like, yeah, the book was far better. And I think that's part of it, because I mean, maybe we should have called this episode movies that were made from books that let us down. But you know, some just missed the mark. For me, one of the things that I have to mention, and I might be stealing this from someone's list, but another movie that let me down, and we'll get to come up to my comedy choices in a little bit next round. But I have to mention that for all the years I waited for a follow-up to the Star Wars trilogy, the original Star Wars trilogy, Phantom Menace just left me with what? Like, what in the hell is happening? That was one of those movies where I could feel it in the pit of my stomach as the movie went on. I was like, oh no. But I have to, like, I have to keep watching these 4, 5, 1, 2, and 3. Just like, they kill me. They kill me.
I really genuinely like 3.
No, 3's fine. 3's fine. But one, I had to suffer through 1 and 2.
Yeah. And for 2, if you could edit out the love story completely,
every single second of it.
The cringe.
Every single second of it.
Every reference to it, like anytime Anakin is obsessing over Padme, no matter whether it's, you know, at the start of the movie or at the end when she falls off of the ship, all of everything, just remove it, and I think you have an A+ movie. But with it, it's, you know, a B- at best.
For me, it's not even just cringy; it's troublesome. It's like, oh god, what really in the world is
really weird.
I mean, there are 1 and 2 were just a nightmare, and now when because I try to revisit the Star Wars franchise every couple of years. I don't like sound. That's funny. I always fast forward through the love story portions of 2 and 3. I'm like, okay, we don't need to see her Mickey Mouse ears in 3 again. We just need to get to the main story.
I committed mass murder. Hey, that's cool. Everybody gets mad sometimes. What?
Yes. Oh,
yeah.
God. That was
so bad.
Is that really what this really powerful and you know, strong woman is going to say when this kid says, I just committed mass murder?
Yeah.
Okay,
so
that's
bad.
cool, Anakin. That's cool. What? No.
She's
not going to be cool with that at all. And that's a teachable moment, and she's going to take advantage of that. I'm sorry.
No, it's you've summed up my thoughts. So there we go. Yeah. All right, Paul, back to you.
Yep. All right. I'm gonna go with one that I saw recently, but it's a movie from 1984, and it's Sergio Leone's 27-hour Once Upon a Time in America.
Oh,
I'm sorry.
Goodness.
No, 3 hours and 49 minutes. Once Upon a Time in America. Now, Sergio Leone, you know, Bad and the Ugly, Fistful of Dollars, a few dollars more. You know, Once Upon a Time in the West, which is an amazing movie, like an amazing movie. But and I'm like, and I was like, oh well, you know, and actually I hadn't seen Once Upon a Time in the West, and I watched it early last year, and I was like, okay, well, I guess I got to go watch, and I loved it, and I was like, I got to watch Once Upon a Time in America now, and just, I mean, you know, the Irishman level bad, you know, just really a bad movie, and it's like. and it's just some of the decisions that are like, what are we like? We're gonna have this person be in love with this person, and then like shows it by raping her. It's just
It's bad.
it's so much bad,
Yeah.
just so much bad, and people. If when I hear people like talk about it, I like the reason why I was like, okay, I gotta go watch it, and I sought it out was because somebody he was saying how and it was at the time that Once Upon a Time in Hollywood came out, and they were talking about how it was kind of like a play on Once Upon a Time in the West, Once Upon a Time in America, and talked them both up. So I saw it Once Upon a Time in the West first, and I loved it, and so I was like, okay, well, I'm ready for Once Upon a Time in America. And it's just like, how do you defend this movie? Like, forget, it was a different time. No, no, it's not good. Like, it's just 3 hours and 45 minutes of yeah. So
Yeah.
that was not a theater experience, but definitely one that it was high on the list of things that it was a blind spot for me, and I just wish it remained.
That makes sense. All right, Susan, we'll come back to you.
So this one's not based on a book, at least that I know of. I was supremely let down after watching all of the trailers and reading a little bit about it before I went to go see it. And I watched Suicide Squad, and I hated it. It was so bad. It was so
That one was
bad.
on a lot of lists. Yeah.
Wait,
So
which
bad.
Suicide Squad? Because there's two of them.
One. I know.
Okay.
We watched the second one. We talked about the second one when it first came out, and it was awful. And we were all like, what the,
and
how
people
did that
are loving it. And I'm like, what are you loving? Yeah. The first one was worse, which is crazy.
Yeah, exactly. And the first one, like, I think part of it was that they talked so much hype about how, like the Joker was going to be in it, and it's going to has a big role. And he showed like he was there for like 5 seconds, and I was like, that's not at all what I was expecting. And then of course, like the story was just like awful.
Yeah.
And it couldn't even be saved by like the badassness of the characters that individually, but then they smashed them together, and they were like, let's do this as fast as we can. Let's just get it done. Let's just get it over with. And so it was just like, it felt rushed. It felt bad. It felt just overall like I was looking forward to it a little bit, and I walked out going, oh. That was just wrong, like all around.
Will Smith, what are you doing, Will Smith?
Exactly.
And by the way, he was by far the best thing in that movie. Like Will Smith was actually, I really liked Will Smith and his character, but like everybody else was just like, frowny face.
Yeah, it was bad. For myself, one of the movies that I had looked forward to, and I made this mistake knowing it was a comedy, was the follow-up to the first Anchorman. The second Anchorman, the first Anchorman is brilliant, beyond brilliant. But the second one was just like, what in the world? How do you, why do we, and this is what comedies tend to do. Very big hit comedies that then have sequels. There are some exceptions. It's because they just try to repeat the formula. Yeah. And that's never going to work. I've never seen a situation in which a comedic sequel that follows the formula of the first film is successful, and it's just that was one of my biggest comedic letdowns, was looking forward to another foray into the Anchorman world, and the second movie completely let me down. So all right, let's do one more round, Paul.
We're gonna do one more round. Okay, I'm gonna do rapid fire sequels. Okay. Just rapid fire sequels. Not going to dive into them. I'm sorry if I'm taking one of yours.
No, that's all right.
But here we go. Rapid fire sequels. And by the way, to Nick, the James Gunn Suicide Squad was not good. I'm sorry. I'm super happy that you like it, and I'm not going to yuck your yum, but it was not good. X3. Ugh. City Slickers 2.
Oh God.
Beverly Hills Cop 3. Ugh.
Bad.
And The Hangover 2 was so bad that it made me never give a crap about seeing the third one. So there's my rapid fire sequels. All of those were movies where I've loved the first one, and in the case of Beverly Hills Cop, I loved the second one too. But damn, bad.
This is what I love to see, when our viewers are in agreement. Look at that.
Yay.
Agree on all 4 of those. Absolutely, Nick.
So there you go. Like sequels are, you mentioned Anchorman, and I was sitting here. I'm like, I think we're gonna do one more, and I don't know which one to pick. And then I was just like, forget it. I'm gonna just keep the sequel theme going. So there you go.
I love it. Also, want to give credit to Blair, who comes in with this winner. That sequel was pretty horrible.
Yeah,
horrible.
we covered that one. We did that.
Absolutely, we did.
The Borat sequel was actually really good. I'm gonna disagree with. He mentions the Borat sequel. I like the Borat sequel, but
yeah. All right, Susan, we'll come to you for the last round.
So again, back to my theme.
Books.
I hated Ready Player One.
Oh,
I hated it.
That does make some lists.
It does, but I think that one you had to have read the books to hate it, because
exactly, and I did, and I didn't read it in preparation. It was just, it happened to be coming out soon after I read the book, because that was one that I came to late.
Okay.
And Ernest Cline is another one of those authors where I can kind of like get into it and enjoy, but I didn't. It was like there was too much that was missing. There was too much that was different. There was too much that I was like going and expecting one thing in my head and walked out going, that was nothing. That was nothing like what I expected. And so that was frustrating.
I understand. So my last entry, sometimes directors let me down. I will absolutely love a director's work, Guy Ritchie, and then they release a movie that is out of their wheelhouse of things they typically do. And kudos to them for trying. But Guy Ritchie, what were you thinking when you did King Arthur: Legend of the Sword? I mean, I went because it's a Guy Ritchie film. It's going to get some unique treatment. Several years later, he follows up with The Gentleman, which was is now on one of my absolute favorite movies list. But this one, and I had when it came out, I had recently been introduced to Charlie Hunnam through Sons of Anarchy, and I thought, okay, well, they're going to give him a vehicle of his own. Yeah, they shouldn't have. And so, yeah, that was a movie that let me down, because I got excited because I love Ritchie's work, and it just that's awesome, Blair. I love it. And so, yeah, so that's sort of my last entry. And again, I go back to where we started, and that is that so many lists have so many movies that, we could argue for hours on should that have made the list of, most, biggest letdowns and so forth. But I think we've captured quite a few that many folks would agree are definitely not movies that made us smile. So, and the list could go on and on. So, at this point, I think, Paul, I feel like you want to say something. I can see it in your eyes.
I had an itchy.
Oh, got it. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. That you're being contemplative.
Yep.
Well, what I'm contemplating is using this topic to segue into a review. Although we could keep it for real quick reviews. What do you think, Paul?
No, let's do it. It's a segue.
Let's do it. It is the perfect segue, because this week we're going to review a movie called Uncharted. And Susan, we thank you for joining us, because I would like you, if you would, to share a little bit about sort of what motivated you to watch this film.
So Cullen, my husband, has played all of the Uncharted games. And I started them. I watched them. I absolutely watched every minute of him playing it, because there was a time when that was what we did. He played video games. I watched. It was entertainment, parallel play, whatever you want to call it for ADHD people. And I went into this movie expecting or thinking like, hey, this is going to be a great movie based on these games. And there's a lot of material to work with. A lot of times games that are made into movies have a little bit higher chance of succeeding. Yeah.
That's not my experience, by the way.
That's rarely my experience.
Okay, maybe I'm in the minority here, but I went in expecting and I intentionally didn't read reviews. I intentionally didn't read anything about it.
Yep.
And I wishing I had.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Now, Paul, did you play the game or are familiar with the game?
I until You mentioned it. I had no idea that it was based on a game.
Okay, because
I had no idea.
So-
You said, well, we could do movies based on like last week we were trying to think of what we could do as a major topic, and you said we could do movies based on games. I was like, Uncharted is based on a video game. I had no idea.
No, that's
no clue.
Yeah.
And
video game.
I'm just curious, the guy who Marky Mark plays, does he just is he like sleepy throughout the whole game? Like, does it always look like somebody needs to get him a cot so he can take a nap?
Yes
Or-
and no.
Oh,
And
okay.
and that's part, like, I feel like I might be the kind of like in between expert video game and movie expert, like for this one at least, because there are so many things. Cullen and I watched it together, and he, of course, having played the games, was like, I have opinions. And so I was like, maybe you should go on the podcast instead of me. And he's like, no, this is how we're doing. We're gonna talk about this. But yeah, there were things, with problems with those characters, and like I could go on. I mean, he has more. I think Marky Mark has less life in him in the movie than he does than his character in the game.
Okay.
I think
'Cause
that
it would be
the-
odd. It would be odd if they wrote a character in an action game where like he's just like, so we're gonna go find a thing, and
that's not.
aren't
him
you
at
ready
all.
to do this
Well,
line?
Well, and that's the thing. I think it's funny how I think we're going to have two very different types of struggles. So, Susan, you with the context of the source material,
Right.
Mhm.
I look at it purely from a film, a cinema, film standpoint, and I see so many problems with just its structure and the way it was, created. I mean, there's just so much wrong with so many things. And Nick Kramer mentions one of the very first thoughts that I had, and that is that it was miscast, because I don't
Absolutely.
buy Mark Wahlberg in this role of, like, I don't even want to call it mentor, but there's just something about him that I don't buy him in this role. Even if I don't know his character in the game, the dynamic between him and Tom Holland they don't click.
No.
Which is
There's no
crazy.
chemistry there.
Which is crazy, because I feel like Tom Holland is one of the most likable people, and you would
Yeah.
think that people who are likable you're going to be able to click with, but no. And God bless Tom Holland, because he did not become part of Marky Mark and the Sleepy Bunch. Tom Holland absolutely went for it in this movie. God bless
Yeah.
him. And I mean, and he was good, even if he was only chosen because he's the new guy. He was still good, and I liked, the first, act and a half, I guess you could say. I did. I was into it, and then there was just more Marky Mark, and I'm like, every time Marky Mark showed up on the screen, it's just like vacuum.
Yeah.
And then they start introducing more characters, and none of these people are interesting to me. Why?
Yeah.
God bless them for having good set pieces, though. They did have good set pieces.
Absolutely. That I can agree.
Yeah. I mean, the first thing that Cullen and I discussed was how they were. I'm going to put this up really quick.
Okay.
The first thing that I said when we got in the car is it should have been Nathan Fillion, because he fits the character profile and the look of the character better than Tom Holland did. But he's old. He's older. He's too old for it right now. I get that.
Hey, careful.
Careful.
He is a treasure.
True. He is. However,
he is a treasure.
He's older than the character is in the games.
Okay.
It seems like, based on this, like, I'm guessing they probably saw Firefly and were like, we're gonna base we're gonna not use Nathan Fillion, but kind of base a character in a game on this guy.
No, and I want to show you. Well, maybe, but I want to show you something. So I'm gonna send a picture. I'm trying to get the pictures that I need.
This is wonderful. Can we get it up on the thing, or I'm guessing not?
I'm gonna try. I think I can try. Give me a second.
Okay.
If you can let me share my screen, I want to show you something, because It's really interesting, and this is something that I did like about the movie is that there were Easter eggs if you played the game. If you played the game, there were Easter eggs. So hang on.
Okay.
So here is
While she's looking for that, I just want to throw out another thing that didn't work. Like this was a classic example of you don't need everything in the trailer. Like,
Yeah.
and the big climax scene should have been a big surprise. It should have been a big reveal, and the fact that they showed not pirate ships, the Magellan ships flying through the air in the trailer, it's like, well, that's like just the fact that they find Magellan ships should have been like a big like, oh, that's really cool. But like that it's in the trailer, it's like, oh, it ruins it.
there. Yeah, exactly. Okay, may I share my screen for a moment?
Sure.
Yes.
Okay, I'm gonna
We don't know
show
if you can.
you something. So
Let's
this
see
is
if
the
you
video
can.
game character right here on the right hand side. That
Okay.
is this is
Okay.
Nathan Drake in the video game. His voice actor he's loosely based on his voice actor, but then you have Nathan Fillion who looks like this.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
anyway,
Yeah. So it's almost like Tom Holland was too young, and Nathan Fillion today would honestly, he'd be probably a little too old. But
Hey.
you know,
that's and I wanted to say
people get too old for shit. I'm sorry.
I know.
they do. The
Like me.
Easter egg that I absolutely loved is when Nathan and Chloe washed up on the beach and they sit there and they talk to this guy for a second who just seemingly random out of nowhere. What the hell is this guy doing here? That's Nolan North, the man who played the voice actor, who was the voice actor for the video games.
They
And
lingered on him, and I turned to my son and I said, that guy has got to be somebody
That's probably
from
important.
something.
He's the
Yeah.
That's exactly what I said too. At first I was like, why is this in here? And I was like,
it was very weird.
And I remember like turning to Cullen and turning my ear to the screen, like, okay, that's why. So, but the other thing with the casting and stuff like that is that Sully in the games is older. He is a sponsor, like you said, mentor is not the right word, but mentor sponsor type of person. He's older. He's been through this. He's like literally lived through his thieving days, and he's trying to bring along the next generation. Essentially, like in my opinion, that's me being whatever.
Sure.
The biggest thing is that in all of the games, Sully has a mustache. A big bushy caterpillar mustache, and they did not put that in the movies, and I am extraordinarily sad.
Until the end.
Did you stay for the stingers?
We missed it. We missed
okay.
it, and that yes. So I found it afterwards and watched it, but I was like,
even then, it's not a big bushy mustache.
exactly. And the thing about it, and the other thing is that the gap in age is not enough. Like I don't know how old Mark Wahlberg is compared to Tom Holland, but they, like Nick is saying,
he could be his dad.
Okay,
he could be his dad.
It just to me was like
he would have been a young dad, but not so absurdly young. I mean, like Marky Mark's, my age, upper 40s, maybe he might even be 50 by now, and Tom Holland is early 20s still. So
yeah. Well, overall, again, I love that we have these two contrasting views that end up in the same place because, Susan, with your understanding of the games and the characters and such, plus, Paul, I think you and I look at this film and go, even if you want to categorize it as just an action film and nothing else, it misses the mark on things because of predictability, which, action movies come with that, but this was too much.
It was too much.
The character interplay was so dead. There was just like no chemistry between this cast. That by the time they got back to the end with, this potential sequel with the brother, I'm like, I don't care. I just don't care.
Yeah, and it's and Nick, I agree with Nick. He said, "Would you agree that the movie just seemed like a bunch of action set pieces that were strung together instead of being in service of a good script?" Absolutely. Like you said, the predictability of an action movie. And combined with that, like the effects were not even that good. Like it's like they had 10 years ago CGI to throw in here, and it's like this is supposed to be like an action movie that's worth something, and
This
it's
is
just
so good. This is so
I'm going to
good.
share this.
Yes,
Oh,
please.
And I want to add on to this. It's like
yes,
this is a hidden cave that where these things these jars have been unopened forever, and there's literally a sewer grate directly above them. It's like,
right.
what? How?
Yeah.
What? Like
The
this
same
isn't
thing.
deep
It's the same
enough
thing with
in
the ships.
catacombs. I'm
The
sorry.
same thing with the ships because they're literally open. There's an open
It's a
bubble
sinkhole.
into
Yeah,
the jungle
yeah,
above them. Like
Yeah.
nobody
yeah.
happened to go across that particular section of jungle when they were just walking like right, quite like the next. So hey, this is so surprising.
All right,
Yeah.
let's do tacos. I
Yeah.
think we've harped on this one long
We've
enough.
beat on it far enough.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah,
No,
no.
it's good.
You're good. I'm looking at the time. So here on Real to Real Talk, we do a 5 taco rating scale. If you love a movie more than 5 tacos, you can throw in some guac. Susan, as our very, very, very special guest, I'd like to start with you. So tell us your rating for Uncharted.
I'm gonna say 2 tacos
Woo.
because at least an attempt was made.
Yeah.
I am morbidly curious about what the sequel's gonna hold, simply because the
Are
games
they gonna make a sequel? God, I hope not.
they are making a sequel. They
No.
are.
Oh my.
Saying they're gonna make a sequel doesn't mean it's gonna happen.
Well,
But,
okay, yeah, they said they're going to. So
yeah.
I'm curious enough about I'm curious enough about it to see how bad the sequel's gonna be. But yeah.
Oh,
underlying
is she going to be pretty bad? I'm just gonna keep that.
Go ahead.
Nope. You go.
I was gonna no, you're next, but I wanted to put this up there because this is an item that so many adventure movies suffer from. Colin Chisholm writes, "Wow, the gold is shiny and not tarnished at all."
Yep. Yep.
All right, Paul. What about you?
Oh wow, Uncharted did 51 million this weekend. Shit,
Oh, yeah.
we might get
It
that
had an
sequel.
opening.
God damn it. I'm gonna keep the 2-star rating or 2 taco rating. Sorry, 2 taco rating up there because it like as much as I want to knock it, and just give it 1 plus guac because of Marky Mark. Tom Holland is good enough. He goes all out. Bless his little heart. So to redeem Marky Mark's sleepiness. So yeah, we're going 2 tacos on this one.
Well, I'm not gonna agree. Yeah, I'm gonna go with 1 plus guac. The guac is partly Tom Holland because he's so entertaining right now in this portion of his career. There were some action sequences that I enjoyed. You guys know I love a good action movie.
Yeah.
But beyond that, there's just not much more to this film. And if there is going to be a sequel, and we're still doing the show, I hope we are. We're gonna have to watch it. But I don't know. I don't hold big hope. So
yeah, the only reason why I don't go as low as 1 taco and guac is because other than Marky Mark, there wasn't much that just like actually made me mad. Like usually I have to be mad at a movie to go below 2 tacos, and I didn't get mad at this. I just was like, meh.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
Well, and then of course we had Antonio Banderas, who just didn't quite reach the level of his acting in the 13th Warrior, and so, yeah.
And poor guy.
I want to point out that something that Colin pointed out was it had things that were, I think, contributing to the rating because when when Antonio Banderas's character was dispatched, there was no blood.
Oh yeah.
I was like, yeah, if they had put blood in it, they would have had to bump up the rating, and they want as many people to see it as possible. And I was like, really? He had like 2 drops of blood. 2 drops of blood.
I again, morbid curiosity. Is that was the story at all related to any of the games? Like, did it feed from? Okay, all right. Because when what happened. Now that Susan has dropped a big reveal, I was just like, all that and then this, So yeah, don't try to up the ante on a film that's already doing poorly, as explained. So
I I have to
Go
say,
ahead.
I think the one character that was cast correctly was Chloe, and that's all I'll say because
Gotcha.
she's exactly like that in the game.
Yeah. Yeah, I did enjoy her performance. The last thing I'll say that this film does that I hope I'm wrong is I do not want Tom Holland to get typecast into he could have just put the spider suit on and he would have been Spider-Man in this film. Like it was the
Mhm.
same portrayal of the character. Now he has done some other work that gives me hope, but I just hope that, he doesn't give up his true acting chops and I hope he takes on some tougher roles as time goes on. So that is our view this week of the movie Uncharted. You can watch it in theaters. So as we always say, you form your own opinion. Don't let us be the ones to tell you what to watch or not to watch. So, all right. So that brings us to a point where we can remind you, don't forget, you can find us on social media. You can find us on Facebook by simply looking up the words Real to Real Talk, and we will be there. So go to our page, make sure you comment on some of our posts. Let us know what you're thinking. Give us some ideas of what you might want us to talk about or movies that you're looking forward to. Also on Instagram at Real to Real Talk, you can see all of our show posters from the last few episodes, so all of the episodes, and that way you can catch up on past episodes and know what we've talked about. And of course, if you are watching us on YouTube, thank you so much for joining us. Please make sure you click that subscribe button and the notification bell, because though we are live every Thursday at 7 Central, 8 Eastern, we do archive our shows. And so if you miss it live, you can catch it on our YouTube page. And also, we'd like to thank those who are watching on Facebook. We appreciate you being with us here on Facebook Live. And we welcome you week to week to hang out with us. So with that, we come to this week's segments. And Paul, what kind of weirdness do you have for us this week as we go to What the Hell Did I Just Watch?
Well, so do you guys remember the name of the first What the Hell Did I Just Watch?
Nope.
Oh my goodness.
First
Your
one.
sleep apnea did
It
damage
was
to me for the years.
Suspiria.
Yes, okay, gotcha.
And
yeah.
it was about a weird a troupe of ballet dancers.
Yes.
And it turned out that and that was a movie that was a Amazon film, and it was a remake of a 1977 sort of horror Italian horror classic by the same name, Suspiria. And so the first one I ever did was Suspiria, and then like last year I did the Italian one is like a 1 year anniversary ish. I didn't know the exact date, but it was roughly February. So like in February of last year, I did the Italian, Dario Argento's Suspiria. And so this week, because with Susan back here, and it's the third year we're entering the third year of What the Hell Did I Just Watch, I did another Dario Argento movie, Deep Red. So it's the movie that came out 2 years in 1975, 2 years before Suspiria, from Dario Argento. And he is really famous, as it turns out, for making for having a very unique voice in his movies, and that them usually being cutting edge, weird, and deeper. I'll be honest with you, like I went in and the first like 10 minutes of the movie I was like, oh, this is great. I was really stoked about it. The first 10 minutes you meet a woman who is psychic and starts reading people's minds and stuff, and in this she's like putting on a not a show, but she's at like a symposium, I guess you could call it, and is able to read the mind of somebody, and then all of a sudden she starts screaming, and it's like, yeah, this is gonna be great. Like we're gonna get a full movie of this woman like looking into the future, reading people's minds and freaking out, and I was totally stoked. And then they killed her, and I'm like, what? So we have somebody that, like, the weirdest thing of this movie is that there is a psychic, like an actual psychic, and they kill her off in the first 15 minutes of the movie. And it's like, what? Why did you do that? Because the rest of the movie just doesn't live up. I'm sorry. Like, it's just, it turns into a fucking jazz pianist tries to solve her murder. Fuck, what? So this jazz pianist happens to be walking by when her head is shoved through a window and then shoved down onto the window. It turns out this was like a very at the time, 1975, it was a very controversial film, and just how kind of gory it was. But it, and it was pretty gory, but like by today's standards, it's really not gory at all. So
Right.
that, for what the hell did I just watch? Just the pure goriness doesn't usually translate, just because it's like, well, I've seen more since, like if I could transport myself back into 1975, I'm sure the gore alone would be enough. But really, the strangest thing is, what the fuck is a jazz pianist doing solving this fucking murder? Like, why are we doing this when we could have had a movie of this amazing like psychic just randomly having screaming fits when she sees something that's horrible, and it turns out she ended up like witnessing her own murder type of thing, and it's like, okay, that's fine, but like that was the best character in the movie and you killed her off. But yeah, so Dario Argento is back for Susan coming back. Yay.
So happy.
Yeah. And it fits the theme of movies that let us down. So there you go.
Yeah, it does kind of like it does. Like, why is a jazz pianist solving a murder? I don't get it. Like, and like it turns into like a serial killer thing, and it's like, why? I don't get it. Jazz pianists don't usually do this.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So
oh my goodness.
It was weird that a jazz pianist was solving a serial killer. But
I think there's a series in there. Maybe they'll redo Deep Red and start it as a
possible
series of films.
Yeah.
All right. Well, Paul, you never fail to bring us cool stuff week to week on What the Hell Did I Just Watch. Make sure you join us every week to find out what kind of weirdness Paul is watching. Because you bring us the greatest stuff.
By the way, I would still recommend Argento's version of Suspiria. It is bonkers awesome.
Yeah.
Deep Red is okay, but just kind of like, Suspiria is bonkers awesome.
I have seen both now, so yeah.
There you
go.
With
All right. Well, in honor of our very special guest, she also is bringing her segment back for this episode, so we're excited about that. As we turn it over to Susan Chisholm for Susan Finally Saw.
I miss this so much. So I am watching a movie that I should have watched a long time ago. My kids have watched it, had watched it, and were like, "You need to watch this movie. It's really funny." And I didn't ever watch it, and so I finally did when I was going to be visiting the show. So I watched Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs, which I don't know if you've seen this, Sergio.
I have. I love these two movies.
Wow.
Okay. I loved it too. I loved it. It was hilarious. Like it had funny moments. It had a little cute story backstory with it. And I thought it was a great film. And I think the kids didn't oversell it when they were like, it's really great. You should watch it. It's got this cool story and it's, fun. And they also made me watch the second one, which I was a little bit more confused about, but I still liked it. I thought I was really good. Cute story also. But I love like all the different, like the different foods when they first start, like people are like, what's going on? It was really adorable, I thought. So that's the movie I finally saw.
The food in this animated films, I don't know. I watched it because I knew the story, but I also was like, it's food. Of course I want to watch this film. And it delivered. It was so much fun. It was one of the few times that I looked forward to an animated movie in the theater and went to go see it when it opened. And yeah, it's a lot of fun. I thought by now you'd have seen it.
I thought I would have too, but I kind of forgot about it. I was reading online afterwards how the animators and the producers actually got different kinds of food and dropped it to see how it landed and like be able to animate that accurately. Awesome. And like the sounds and stuff like that. To me, I was just like, wow, that really does sound like a cheeseburger.
They could have just hung out at Sergio's place and watched him cook. You know,
That's
I don't
right.
know why they
And
would
drop food. So- I drop food when I cook. And so- all right. Well, Susan, thank you so much for bringing back your segment on your visit with us. We appreciate that a lot.
Yay!
All right, it's time for this week's Real Good TV, where I talk about shows that I think you should watch. One of the shows that I caught or started a few months ago, I've gone through the first 2 seasons, and now, of course, there's 6. So, but this particular show that I'm going to share tonight had 2 actors that are just have done some of the best work: Paul Giamatti and Damian Lewis. Damian Lewis, a little lesser known, unless you liked series like Band of Brothers and Homeland. But together, they put together a fantastic 5 seasons of the show Billions. It's a Showtime production, and y'all take one guess why I love this series. Anybody?
Is it talky?
It's extremely talky.
I was
I
going to
knew
guess it
it.
had to do with food.
No, it doesn't actually. Yeah, that would have been that's the second criteria. But no, this is basically a series based on Damian Lewis as a and I'm going to do a horrible job of describing it because terminology, but he's basically a corrupt stockbroker, and he runs this firm. And Paul Giamatti is the U.S. Attorney General that is trying to chase him down, and so it's this cat and mouse game between the two over the first few seasons, and there's just some fantastic support work done by Maggie Siff and David Costabile that just is out of this world amazing. And the story compels you to keep going back. The only reason I didn't is because, like many times, I start watching other series, and so I'm excited to continue my journey through Billions here in the next few weeks, because there is really some fantastic acting and some great TV. So make sure you check out Billions. You can find it on Showtime. And if you subscribe to Showtime on Prime, you can get every single episode. So, all right, man. Gosh, is that it? Did we do it?
That's it.
Yeah. Susan, thank you so much for making time to join us this week. It just like hand to a glove. Perfect fit.
Feels good. Feels good to be back and visit, at least for a little while.
Absolutely. Well,
Doors
we wish
always
you
open.
absolutely always open. We wish you continued success with school, and we know that in just a few months we will be congratulating you on completing your journey. So keep doing well, kiddo.
Thanks.
Yeah.
All right, Paul, as always, it is a blast. What are we looking forward to next week? Any ideas?
Cyrano's coming out.
That's right.
I think we were talking about doing a Netflix roulette. Don't know. We'll figure it out.
Yeah, we'll figure it out. But Cyrano, musical, I hear.
Yeah,
So-
that's the trailers wouldn't tell you that, but nor
This
the
is true.
commercials. No,
This is
there's
true.
absolutely no evidence of it outside of the fact that it is actually a musical. Yes.
Yeah, and we're standing on the cusp of the Batman, if I'm not mistaken.
We are, yeah. So that's
Yeah.
2 weeks out
Mhm.
for the Batman,
And then
and
just a few weeks after that, April 1st, Morbius. Big stuff
no,
coming
it's he's the last week of March, isn't he? Or is
No,
it
April
1st?
1st. April
Oh,
1st.
okay. So
Yeah,
I'll
which
take
is
your
going to
word for
be
it.
the
Yeah.
right after the last week of March.
Yep.
And so, all right. Well, make sure you follow us on social media so you can know what's coming next. Once again, here on YouTube, thank you for joining us. Make sure you click subscribe, hit the notification bell, and all that fun stuff. But more importantly than that, on behalf of Paul and Susan, don't forget, you are awesome. You're amazing. And the world's a better place because you are in it.